What's up, and welcome to another edition of Locked On NBA, the biggest stories with the local experts. I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, also host of Locked On Rockets right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Today, we'll be chatting with Nick Angstadt of Locked On Mavs as the Mavericks are making their way up the ranks of the Western Conference. Luka Doncic with a stretch of really impressive performances post All-Star break. What do the new look Dallas Mavericks look like, and how impactful has Spencer Dinwiddie been for this Mavs team? But first, a quick message from our friends over at BetOnline, because, hey, football might be over this season, but basketball's in full steam for both pro and college hoops. From all the latest odds, totals, player performance props, to where the next fired coach is going to land, BetOnline.net is your number one spot for all of your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And hey, it's not just basketball. BetOnline is your source for hockey, boxing, and UFC odds, right to the Olympic coverage and information. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action available to you. BetOnline, where the game starts. Joining us now is Nick Angstadt, host of Locked On Mavs and host of Locked On NBA Thursdays. Nick, a 21-point comeback against the Warriors, pulling off the crunch time win against the struggling Lakers team, another win against the Warriors, and then holding on just barely by the skin of their teeth without Luka Doncic against the Sacramento Kings. It's been a busy yet productive week for the Dallas Mavericks, wouldn't you say?
Dallas Mavericks are playing the best basketball they've played all year, right? They're now 13 games above 500. That's the highest they've been this year. They are really close to getting that 4 seed and having home court advantage. And this is not something we thought about this team when they were 16-18 out of the gate. And I think they were 12th in the West at some point, just trying to figure everything out, and the Jason Kidd of it all, and the Kristaps Porzingis of it all. And now it's so different watching this team post trade, because Jason Kidd has proven to be a good coach now, which is crazy. It's not something I thought I was going to say at the beginning of the season, and I'll admit that. But now post-trade, this team is so set in what they're doing. We know the answers to every question about this team. Some of the answers are not good. Like, what do they do rim protection center-wise? Okay, it's Dwight Powell, it's Maxi Kleber, not great. But we know the answers to all the questions now. We know what roles everyone is going to play on this team. Now, the minutes and things will change and fluctuate, but we know all of those answers about what this team is. They have a set identity. They play really good defense now. And it's just a really much more fun team to watch. If you've been avoiding the Mavericks because you thought that they weren't fun, this is now the time to jump back in.
No, the Mavs are absolutely a fun team to watch. Luka Doncic is honestly one of the top 5, most fun players to watch in the league for me. It's very reminiscent of early James Harden days.
So it's very familiar basketball to you.
It is. And to me, it's really weird watching this iteration of the Mavericks too, because I feel like Luka was in his early James Harden Houston phase, trying to coexist alongside another very talented individual player in Kristaps Porzingis. And that was James Harden and Dwight Howard early on in Houston. And now they were just like, okay, we're done with this. We're done trying to make this work. We're done trying to fit this, 2-man game. It's not happening. Let's move Porzingis out. And now I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong here, Nick, I feel like this is now the best, most complementary set of players that Luka has had around him in his career to this point, because it feels like they're almost all tailor-made to just slot in around him, let him do what he does best, and then thrive because of him in this heliocentric offense.
It absolutely fits better, right? It goes back to the identity thing. They have their identity. They know that, and that's why Spencer Dinwiddie has fit in so well so early, right? You have Luka, Dinwiddie, and Brunson. They can all play together. They can all play separately, and they're just going to attack the basket and make the ball move, and they're going to be around, and those guys can catch and shoot. They can drive. They can do all kinds of stuff with the ball. And then the other guys around them know that their roles are, okay, I'm Dorian Finney-Smith, I'm Reggie Bullock, I'm just going to stand in the corner and I will hit threes when asked, right? Or finish on a closeout because somebody just closes out so hard and is doubling Luka on the other side of the court. Or I'm Dwight Powell and Maxi Kleber and I'm going to roll to the rim. Maxi's going to pop a little bit more than Dwight, but that's their role and that's what they stick to. And it's just so set in their ways, and they play small. They can go smaller now a little bit more often. They don't have to play Porzingis, that 7'3", guy trying to figure out, okay, how does he fit in this defense? It's made everything a little bit more seamless because you can just bench Dwight Powell and bench Maxi and bench these bigs and go super small. They did it at the end of the Kings game. They did it at the end of the Warriors game. They came back from 20 points in both of those games, and it's really just changed the whole format of this team and changed what they can do.
I'm glad you bring that up. Spencer Dinwiddie is the name that I want to just talk about here, because back when the Wizards were in a tailspin pre-trade, Ed Oliver of Locked On Wizards was on this very show, and he said that he believes Spencer Dinwiddie was better suited to a sixth-man role where he could kind of flourish off the bench, which looks like that's exactly what's happening in Dallas now, with the exception of him starting the one game in place of Luka Doncic against the Kings. But what are you seeing from him and out of him on a nightly basis as he is kind of, working himself into the core of this Dallas Mavericks team?
Yeah, he's playing so well right now. If he keeps this up, he may not be in that six-man role just because he's playing so well. I mean, he's shooting like 45% from three or something like that, and getting to the free throw line and all that. He's just been so good, and such a thing that the Mavs have needed for years. I know a couple people on our YouTube channel commented, how long have you guys on Locked On Mavs been talking about they need another ball handler? They need one more guy that can just handle the ball. Because if you think about the first series against the Clippers 2 years ago, it's Luka, it's Tim Hardaway Jr., Seth Curry, Porzingis, Dorian, and you're like, who else do you trust with the ball on this entire team? It was like Luka and Barea was like the only people you trust with the ball in their hands, because Brunson struggles against length and he wasn't as good as 2 years ago that he is right now. And you're like, man, there's just no one else you trust to even dribble the ball at times on this team, especially in a playoff series. And so now you have Luka. Brunson has really gotten in his stride this year and taken a huge step forward. And now Dinwiddie is in this role where he is, yes, he's coming off the bench. Jason Kidd has messed with that three-guard lineup a couple times, and it's worked. Those guys can hit, catch, and shoot threes. Those guys can also dribble the ball. And if you swing the ball around, somebody else can drive. And it's a breath of fresh air a little bit, because it's just been so heliocentric for the Mavs. Just the only guy that can drive is Luka. Everybody else is either, a pick and roll big or a catch and shoot player. And so adding that guy has just changed the offense so dynamically that it's been great. Now he is in that six-man role, like Ed said, he is thriving in that role. But him and Brunson have played well together. Their net rating on the court is plus 20, which I don't know if you know that. That's very good. That's a very good net rating, is outscoring your opponents by 20 points per 100 possessions.
No, that is an incredible net rating, and I wish I still had the net rating pulled up, but because I was curious to see the actual amount of minutes that they played in that three-guard lineup that you've referenced a couple times.
It's not much. It's like 65 possessions right now or something like that.
Yeah, so it'll be really interesting to see whether that gets utilized a bit more by Jason Kidd down the line situationally and whatnot. But you mentioned Kidd earlier, and I think, is it at this point, earlier this season, there were a lot of question marks about Jason Kidd, but can we say pretty confidently now that he's had a decent level of success with the Mavericks, given where they're at now at this point in the season?
Oh, you can't say that he hasn't had success, right? Like there's no way you can deny at this point that he has been a successful coach for the Mavs so far. Especially looking at, the numbers we brought up on Locked On Mavs today. We're talking about their comebacks and the way that this team has, been down in some of these games. They were down 21 to the Warriors and came back with both Steph and Klay playing. They were down 19 to the Kings without Luka Doncic this weekend, and they came back in both of those games. They've come back from down 10 at any point in the game, down 10 points. They've come back and won 13 times. That's a pretty big number so far through the season, with like 20 or so games left to go, that this team has been able to come back and mount comebacks. They only did it 7 times all of last year, if you want to put it in perspective. So this team is poised. Jason Kidd is putting them in the right positions, and all the stuff Spencer Dinwiddie has been saying about, the roles, and they were changing things up in Washington. It was just all confusing and all this. He said the opposite about the Mavs so far. Everyone knows their roles. Everyone is set and inspired to play their roles by Jason Kidd. He has been this incredible players coach that the Mavs hoped that he could be. And he's really just changed his tone. That's the big thing that has just changed so much, that I think from all the stuff that I talked about with Kane Pittman, and I had many conversations about what was Jason Kidd like in Milwaukee, and what was, what kind of a coach was he? And Miran Fader's book, was all that real? Like we were talking about all that. And his tone has changed so much. This drop has been something that I've had in almost every show.
This is a positive world.
This is a positive world. That's what Jason Kidd has become. He's become such a positive presence. He's promoting, he's empowering everybody on the team. He's, being positive. We have not heard, he's only had 1 tech this year, I think, or maybe 2. He's just been so positive in every area. And I think he's really trying to change the perspective that was on him, and what, people like me and everybody else thought about him before he became this coach. There was all the talks before he became an assistant in LA. He was going to little finger his way into, the starting, being the head coach of that team. And I think he really wants to change that perspective. And I think he has so far.
It'll be really interesting to see how this all plays out for the Dallas Mavericks. The last time this Mavericks team actually lost was on the road against the Utah Jazz, just a 5-point loss on the road in Utah, a rematch that they're getting ready to face Monday night, a potential Western Conference 4-5 playoff preview. You're definitely going to want to tune into that game, and you're going to have us covered for all of that and more over at Locked On Mavs. Nick, thanks for tuning into Locked On NBA with me.
Absolutely.